Alright guys, let's come again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far with Rostermania crash outs continuing on the challenger side. ZooMaa's calling out BenJ Nassim for the way that he's trying to build this Stallions roster as they go through this rebuild process. BenJ the other day said the way that ZooMaa approaches creating these rosters is not conducive to long-term success. He thinks ZooMaa needs to cast a wider net in terms of the players that he considers picking up to the Stallions. But ZooMaa says, look, Ben has no idea what he's talking about and he's picking players' names to get signed because they're talking in his chats. Right, what's to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Lots to get into today. Scrap was talking about, well, 2v2 Chels with Kaysan. It's nice to see a little bit more Call of Duty being played. We know that Drazah has been playing a lot of COD over the last few weeks. There is always a question, does it help you? Does it hurt you playing extra Chels? We know that Simp was always saying the argument of he didn't like playing 8s. It feels like it gives him bad tendencies. But look, that's Simp as far as I'm concerned. He can do what he likes. But for many pro players, they feel like putting in some extra time is good. I think that's certainly what Kenny's been doing. Don mentioned on the show last night that Kenny recognised that this game and the success that he's previously had, it's not kind of coming easy to him as it has done previously. So he needs to put in a bit more work. He's playing some 8s and other things like that when he can, playing some Chels. And look, Kenny believes he's playing a pretty solid level of COD right now. Don said that in scrims, Ken feels like he's doing well. It was just a matter of actually translating that into the real games. This is a pretty wild Chel though, as you can see here. J-Lito and Fatty playing against Kaysan and Scrap, and Fatty finds himself, he plays a cruddy spot here. Scrap hits the flank and isn't ready for this one and goes down, and look how quick Scrap leaves the lobby. There's got to be some sort of record, right? I mean, look, he's already gone. It's as soon as he died, he brought up the menu and a straight rage quit within about a second out of the game. That was a map, that was a map 3-5-5 victory. Scrap and Kaysan weren't particularly happy about that, and maybe there's a couple of clips to share for you guys in a second. But let's talk about the state of challenges and what's going on with Rostermania down there. There was an interesting scrim between Huntsman and Falcons Academy Green. Of course, that is the QK and a Seam roster. There was a little bit of talk, we did it on the show last night, who is going to be the Rookie of the Year in the CDL? Couple of options right now. You've got Trakes on Heretics, you've got Mamba on G2, and you've got probably leading the way right now, you would say, is Craze on the Ravens, you might argue. There's probably a couple of others in due course that will be considered. I guess the question for you guys is the Rookie of the Year currently in the league? Is it one of those players I've mentioned? Is it somebody else? Or is it somebody who's about to get their debut in the near future? Because look, this time last year, you wouldn't have predicted it would be Mercules as Rookie of the Year. He wasn't in the Pro League yet. He wasn't even in the conversation necessarily to be in the Pro League quite yet. But as we know, Mercules did come into the league and then the rest is history. So, you know, this time last season, people were looking, I mean, really it was Rancor, right? Rancor was leading the way after he'd come in. There wasn't really too many other options apart from the Stallions guys or the Falcons guys, sorry. We'll discuss the Stallions in a second. And then like when Super came in and all that. But in the end, it was obviously hands down Mercules. So I guess that's the question. Will we see some players like this come into the Pro League and start to turn some heads? Because, you know, this QK guy, he is like seriously good, probably the top prospect out of Saudi Arabia right now. And it's interesting because you guys remember at the start of last season on the Falcons, it was Xnid and Kicks, right, who were playing the best stuff. Kicks, well, he disappeared. We don't really know what happened there. He went back home, but he's still playing. Kicks is still spotted playing in like the Saudi league. So he's still playing. I guess he wanted to be back home. I guess we'll see if he ever comes back. The point is the world's probably moved on from that. Xnid now is still a staple at the Falcons. But QK is on their Academy Green team and he has been absolutely frying. And Clayster did say the other day that they have considered whether they loan him out. And apparently there are teams interested. So that's the question for me. Even a player like Renegade, I think there's a possibility that he comes in at some point and starts to turn heads. Look, after Major 1, we are going to have probably a more expanded list of potential rookies that could turn heads. Maybe it could be Craze, but I think if it is going to be Craze for Ravens, then that team is going to have a pretty good placing at least some events coming shortly. We'll see if that can actually happen. But in challenges, people are trying to figure out what they do with their rosters. Challenges has always been like this. It's probably never really going to change. There's been about 50 roster changes in challenges in the last 24 hours. And look, nobody really knows where it's going to be. Obviously, I'll share what the rosters were as of last night. But as of today, like, yeah, things are very different. Now, this is an interesting team you'll note. You've got Okis, Nate Terminated, Icons +1. And then you've got this Ryan, Symbols, Lieben, Swag Check team. There have been some questions. Is that going to be part of the Stallions or is it not? Good question. The Okis team as well with Nate Terminated Icons looks like it's going to be happening. Apparently the fourth is pretty strong. Not clear whether that's going to be Stallions Black because, of course, Stallions Red with Encourage and Swooty and all this, that has not necessarily gone away just yet. But there have been lots of talk about the Stallions. What sort of rebuilds does ZooMaa need to do? Encourage Swooty, Hyde and Heist after all the drama between Swooty and Havoc. Havoc decides to call it a day. But Encourage, they're building around him. Swooty is not going anywhere as it stands. So that's the option for ZooMaa. And where does he go with the Stallions roster? He's had some quality Stallions rosters. He's had some less quality Stallions rosters. Every Stallions roster, at least to some extent, has been pretty entertaining. And yeah, as I say, these are the roster seedings. But as of very shortly afterwards this morning, at least 3 of these have already changed. So yeah, roster changes are inevitable right now. I'm sure they will continue, but with all these players being available, ZooMaa has a lot of options to choose from in terms of picking players for the Stallions. And where does he go? So BenJ the other day called him out and said that ZooMaa doesn't really know what he's doing. He's throwing out players that I don't think are good, making the team around Hyde, Swooty and Encourage is like, okay, whatever, you're probably not going to achieve that much with that roster, and that's BenJ's opinion. After the Elite is over, he needs to cast a wider net, and I think that is what ZooMaa's going to do. But also right now, teams are getting eliminated from the Elite. In the next couple of days, we will see some of the big boys either win or lose. Then there will be plenty more players available for ZooMaa to potentially go and get. But even right now, there are some more additional options on the table. We can see all the Rostermania that is currently happening. So BenJ says ZooMaa's got to lock in, but ZooMaa has a rather different perspective and says, look, Ben's clueless when it comes to the challenger scene. He's got no idea which players are good and which players aren't. All he's thinking about is getting Geo and Big Wake into the team, which is probably possible, but like they're on a really good team right now with Yuli and TwoReal, other players that BenJ recommends. And then ZooMaa says that the only players that BenJ comes up with when it comes to this casting a wider net are players that he sees in his chat, either people that are actually in his chat as players or fans in Ben's chat who are typing names of players, and BenJ's reeling those off. So yeah, good bit of drama really. BenJ says ZooMaa is too narrow-minded and doesn't consider too wide a number of players, and then when ZooMaa asks him what players to consider, BenJ doesn't really have a great answer.
aBeZy made phenomenal plays right there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and that you said that most people don't pick up on it.
Yeah, they don't pick up on players.
Are you alluding to your fellow co-host, Matt?
Ben, no, of course. I speak in general.
Defend yourself.
I speak in general.
I mean, you barely speak at all during the show, but sure, yeah.
I mean, you got the football game up on your left. I can see the reflection in your eyes.
Yeah, I got the football game up, but I've said about 65, 70 more words than you have this entire show.
What's wrong,
Yeah, but the words, it's quality over quantity.
Champion, but you don't weigh in during plays. We're all here talking about plays. It's like you don't see the fucking minimap. All good though.
It's quality over quantity, Ben. You just talk a lot, but it's a lot of nonsense. What I say is high impact.
And then LA Thieves close it out here at the end. Hey, let me get into T-Speak, and I gotta hear Ben. That's Ben. Ben, what do you think? Fuck you, Ben. Fuck you. Hey, Ben, who should we pick up? He starts naming people that literally is impossible to pick up. He doesn't even know half the fucking players in fucking challenges. He doesn't even fucking know who's even performing, who's not performing. Maybe looking at the analytical stat sheet. Maybe if he's looking at the fucking stat sheet. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't even know. He gave me Geo and Big Wake 5 times in a row. I said, besides for Geo and Big Wake, who would you pick up? And he goes, I'd probably go Yuli and TwoReal. But they're on the team with Geo and Big Wake. Like they're on the team with Geo and Big Wake, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me some players, man. Give me some fucking players. And he starts naming players that he sees in his chat, man. Fuck.
Yeah,
if you were running the Stallions, what would you do with their roster rebuilds for Stallions Red, Stallions Black? At the end of the day, it would be nice to see Stallions succeed, as in actually win something, right? Make some progress. But I think Stallions being that underdog team is part of the appeal. If ZooMaa just went and signed, you know, Geo, Big Wake and all those guys, I don't know. Maybe they would do better. They'd place better, but would it feel the same as an organization? Not necessarily. I think kind of part of the appeal is the underdog value that Stallions bring at the moment, and also from ZooMaa's perspective, the entertainment value also matters for sure, right? And I know that a lot of players are entertaining. It's just we don't see it a lot because they don't necessarily stream. But ZooMaa has done a pretty good job recently in choosing players that gives them storylines. And Scrappy is very controversial, right? Some people think, oh, this guy's terrible, get him out of the league right now. Other people think that he's got something about him but just needs a bit more time, and there's all these opinions. He also will always have some pretty entertaining debates with the people that he's on the team with, which is probably a big part of keeping people engaged with the Stallions on some level. So yeah, and Encourage has been the golden boy for some time, so it makes sense to stick with him. So I don't know, ZooMaa's got to balance a few elements, right? Like, yeah, there's the competitive part, there's probably trying to try some new talents part, there's also trying to find some new talent as well. We know that the history of a lot of Stallions players have gone on to do some pretty damn good things on other teams, Mercules among many others being a pretty good example of that. But also, is that not an issue, right? That Stallion seems to find some decent players, but then they go and then they get better somewhere else. So, yeah, we'll see what ZooMaa decides to do. But he's got to balance multiple considerations here when he builds these rosters. BenJ, I think, as always, means well, but doesn't always have maybe the insight that ZooMaa would like if Ben's going to be the assistant general manager of this franchise. So tweet your thoughts in the comments. Just one final thing, really, adjacent to that Stallions drama. I gotta share like this minute of this because I was cracking up last night when we were doing the show and Don was calling out Havoc in multiple regards, and he went on like a 5-10 minute, I don't even know how long this rant was at this point, he went on a massive rant anyway about Havoc and how the community perception of him has changed, because Havoc's a veteran, right? So people were saying, oh, but Havoc, you know, this guy has a winning mentality, that's why he's calling out Scrooty and all this. And Don's like, look, that isn't how it was back in the day. Now Havoc's this veteran and he's made all this money playing ranked and stuff. Now he's considered a cold-blooded killer. But back in the day, this guy was considered charming soft. So anyway, I'll share this to close out the video. I think you'll find it entertaining. If you guys want to watch the whole episode, you can find it on the Breaking Point channel. Parasite in the replies, who also has had his fair share of teammate confrontations, to put it very lightly indeed. He's in the replies and saying, yeah, Colt will openly admit that he wasn't the best as a teammate, etc, etc. Bit of a debate. Don hits the reply. So very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Bro, I heard from that era, Colt Havoc was soft as fucking charming, that he only wanted to hear criticism if you gassed him first. That is what I heard. But now I'm opening the comments, and now Colt Havoc is a cold-blooded champion winner, so he wants to win more than anybody so he could talk to his teammates crazy. But when the motherfucker was a pro, no, you had to write a paragraph of what he did good first before you could criticize him. But somehow, some way, this nigga is Kobe Bryant. This nigga turned into Kobe Bryant in retirement. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? This nigga's a cold-blooded killer? This nigga is the Mamba mentality? But when he played, everyone said this nigga is soft as shit. I'm just keeping it a buck. I'm not rewriting history. No, the motherfucker that's known as Tweak was Slasher, me, Clay. Like, those niggas was tweakers. Like, he's not known as a tweaker. So now that he's rich as fuck, he's Mamba mode? What that's what rubbed me the wrong way. What the fuck?